Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Maple Leafs fans, happy Halloween, happy Diwali, and I'm happy to announce and inform you, and if you're here, you already know that the Leafs just beat the Seattle Kraken 4-1. They came out in front. I do have a Kraken jersey. It is my West Coast team, so tonight is always a good night. I love watching two teams that I love play against each other, and tonight's game was excellent. It was no exception. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about the Liljegren trade. We're going to talk about how the power play is now 3 for 34, and all of that. But before we do all of that, first thing I want to do is again say happy Diwali to everybody that celebrates. And to celebrate Diwali, I'm going to light one of my very favorite candles because if you are not aware, I only know a little bit and I only learned this recently. Diwali actually means the festival of light. And so wearing light clothing and lighting candles and celebrating all things that bring light to the world is what that celebration is for. So happy Diwali to all that celebrate. Happy Halloween to all of those that are also celebrating tonight. I was actually wearing a Fallout Vault Tech Vault outfit today at work. I did not wear it tonight because I usually run very warm. And again, it is Diwali, so you're supposed to dress light. So I'm wearing my Leafs Pride shirt that's got all kinds of colors. I have my white Leafs jersey out front. And I am here and happy to tell you again that the Leafs did just beat the Seattle Kraken handily 4-1. My name is Lauren. If it is your first time here, welcome. I'm happy to have you. And we're going to get right into it. So to start off the game, the Leafs did not look like they had a whole bunch of jump in the first period. That was pretty clear from the first 30 seconds. The Kraken got a really good push to start off. Woll made an incredible save 20 seconds in. He is the reason that we came out with such a lead in this game. Definitely keeping the Leafs in it in that first period, and an excellent redemption game for him. He had a really tough night out last Thursday against the St. Louis Blues, his hometown team, and tonight he gets a little bit of redemption. So very happy about that for Joseph Woll. And the Leafs, luckily, they have a little bit of a sleepy first period. They do get a PK opportunity and a 4-on-4. They aren't able to capitalize on it, but they do get essentially 38 seconds of 4-on-4 time and then another minute 22 of 5-on-4. There was a really good William Nylander chance on that power play. OEL had a really close one-timer. The shots were only 5-4 10 minutes in, so it wasn't a super high-scoring or high-shooting game to begin with. There was definitely exchanges going both ways. It was a very north-south game. It seemed like as soon as the other team got it, they were rushing up the ice. Again, in the beginning, first 10, 20 minutes, 18 minutes, I suppose, the Leafs were doing not a very good job of making accurate passes. They were really struggling to start out in their own end. They were having a heck of a job trying to, limit the pressure and limit the opportunities. And they seemed to be really pushing guys to the outside on the Kraken, but they were getting all these opportunities to clear, and they just weren't able to do it. So really struggling at the beginning of the game. But Woll really keeps the Leafs in it. Like I said, he was getting hammered in the first 12 minutes. It just seemed like, even though the shots were not very high, it seemed like the Kraken were gonna continue to ride the high from the other night when they handily beat the Montreal Canadiens 8-2. But luckily, the Leafs are actually the team that strikes first, with Matthew Knies going in with 4.7 seconds to go. Just an unbelievable set play off the faceoff dot. Austin Matthews actually wins the faceoff, goes through the defenders on the other team, passes it to Mitch Marner, who passes it back to Matthew Knies, who is able to bury a very nice one-timer from about 8 feet away. And heck of a way to go into that first intermission. Like I said, the shots by the end of the period were 14-11 in favor of Toronto. But it didn't feel like there were that many opportunities for the Leafs in that first period until, the last 5-6 minutes of it, and then they seem to sort of shake the cobwebs off their legs and finally wake themselves up from the dead. So we went into the first intermission 14-11, and just to open up the second period, it's becoming pretty clear. That's what this first segment is going to be about. It's becoming pretty clear of the fact that the Leafs are managing to score a lot of really good goals from a lot of really good places. And by good places, I mean in front of the net, playoff style goals that we know that come April dry up, and they do not have a habit of being able to score those in those tough moments. So going into last game, going into tonight's game, for the Leafs to be so good in and around the net and the slot has been really promising. They still haven't scored on the power play, and it's funny. At this point, I'm gonna talk about the power play in a second. There's no one here to keep me within the lines today, so it's all back on me. So that first period is tough, but they do manage to come out with a goal. It was very good. It was a very, 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 very nice one-timer shot from Matthew Nyes from very close, right in the slot. And the second period gets off to just as hot of a start. William Nylander scoring again 1 minute and 39 seconds in. The Leafs seem to, the last couple of games, so against Boston, against the Jets, and against the Kraken, the Leafs have been able to score a goal in the first 2 minutes of the second period. So it seems like even on the nights where they aren't starting on time, they are getting there. And in the second period, they're really able to turn on the Jets, so to speak, and pun intended after last game, and really get themselves into a good position into the second period and really riding that. They've been a very good second period team so far this year, which is very nice to see. It's nice that they're being able to close out some of those games where they do have a close lead as well. But just the main thing that I want to talk about here is how they are scoring really good in on the goalie opportunities by creating chaos. And in the playoffs and later down the stretch, those are the kinds of goals that get you the meat and potatoes of your wins. Don't get me wrong, the very nice shot from the point would be great every now and then, maybe a little bit more frequently. But the chances that some of our more artistically and skilled players like to take, those are the ones that dry up. So being able to see the Leafs put together consecutive games where they are playing this style of hockey that is creating chaos, and they are not only creating chaos, but they're actually being able to bury some of these now, it's really good to see. And after the second goal, the William Nylander goal, it's a really nice play from Riley and Tavares, 1 minute and 39 in. Matthew Nyes takes a penalty. It was a holding the stick penalty 4 minutes in. They're able to kill that off. And William Nylander, from basically the exact same spot, just 7 minutes later, is able to put the Leafs up 3-0. And it really felt like as soon as Willie got that second goal in, the Leafs were just rolling four lines and it seemed like they were just relentless on the Kraken. It was literally like every time they got an opportunity, they were creating really good zone opportunities. They were getting people in the slot. They were getting people to those places where they have been able to score. This game very easily could have been much higher scoring from the Leafs if they were able to bury a couple of the chances that we had. And then so into the third period, they do end up getting another power play opportunity, and I guess now is as good a time as any to go into the second period. But before we do that, really quickly, I want to talk to you about our flagship show on the Game Over Network on Hyperdrive Hockey. All things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries, whatever it is and wherever it is. Max, Daphne, and Kev have you all covered with all of your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Do check out Hyperdrive Hockey, especially if, I find it's really helpful because for the most part, I only have time to watch my team. And so for our network, which is such a nice thing to say I'm a part of, be able to put out a show like this where I can get caught up on basically all the league stuff from all over. It's really nice to have that all in one place. So please go check out Hyperdrive Hockey. It's a really good show. I usually listen to it the next day on my commute to work. So that is my advice to you. So let's move into the second period, and what I keep trying to not talk about, but it seems like I can't get rid of it, kind of like a bad bug infestation, is this awful power play. That pause was on purpose. the Leafs, very good tonight up and down the ice. There were a lot of really good opportunities, especially on that second power play where it was, they seem to, they keep beating this drum. We're getting the opportunities, but we're just not able to bury them. And the first power play looked a little bit messy. The second power play was decidedly better. The Adam Larsson interference penalty on Nick Robertson, 8 minutes and 36 seconds into the third period. They started the second unit, which was very nice to see. Considering the fact that, you know, they have basically ridden the top line with the hopes that it was just going to turn a corner one day and magically be better. For them to actually take the opportunity to actually try the second unit out and give it a little bit more than 30 seconds, which is what they usually get, was a very nice change. There were a couple of really good opportunities by that unit. Max Pacioretty gets just absolutely robbed on the one play. He was right in the slot where William Nylander had scored his previous 2 goals, and there's an unbelievable block, like a 1 in 300 chance kind of block. It was a really, really, really nice play by the Kraken defensively. And they keep it out of the net. There's again a gaping net that's kind of missed by a couple players, but I can't really fault them for that. I mean, the reality is that Joey Daccord was down on the ice, and all 4 Kraken players were basically had a foot in the blue paint. So it was not an easy moment to make a move, and that power play unit was getting those chances, which again is so nice to see. And even though they don't bury it, and they are now 3 for 34, they're, what was once bad at 10% is just continuing to decline, like a sad meteor. Like at some point the bubble has to pop, right? Like it can't go on like this. Like it's baffling that this is still happening. And not only is it still happening, but it's happening kind of decidedly. Like tonight, the second unit gets a couple really good chances. But that first power play, like why they're seeming to have such a difficult time taking the plays that are giving them the opportunities at 5-on-5 off the face-off dot and converting that same ethos to the power play, right? That Matthew Knies goal with 4.7 seconds to go is the result of a get into position and have some other person exactly where they need to be. And that person just happens to be, you know, the size of a dump truck and with the ability of most better ability than most players his age in Matthew Knies. I have a feeling that whenever the Leafs do score a power play goal next, whenever that is, that's the kind of goal it's going to be. It's going to look seemingly outwardly familiar and almost identical to the way that they have been scoring the last couple of games. And it's interesting that it still hasn't been able to connect. That first power play tonight, Montana. There was a couple really nice opportunities that they got, but again, there's still a lot of pass, hold, stick handle, pass, hold, receive the pass, and instead of, you know, one-timing the pass like Mitch Marner does on that Matthew Knies goal, there seems to be a lot of like passing with purposeful receiving and with an acknowledgement that you're passing. It's one thing to do it as like a fake out, right? You do the Jason Spezza fake shot and then you pass it over and, you know, screw your goalie up. Do that. Or like try one-timing passing it a little more. They seem to really be struggling still with moving the puck fast enough to get the other team turned around. If we look at the Jets power play the other day, the Jets were bringing the puck super down low and then getting it up to the top of the blue line, like getting it back up to the top of the zone in like back and forth within a second and a half. And what it does is it results in basically causing the other team's defense to have vertigo and not being able to keep their head on their shoulders straight because you move your head that fast, all the liquid in your ears goes wee around the tubes. So, you know, that's the reason. And I don't like the Jets. If you have been here in years previous, you know that every day that I stream, I have this sat right in front of me. Okay. I keep it as a memory of good times for moments like this when they are frustrating, because we've seen other teams have power plays that on paper look incredibly basic with an okay set of people on the ice. And the Leafs have arguably on paper one of the best cores, and it's just tough. But like, I'm picking on the power play because we got to talk about it, but the reality is tonight was a very good win. Last Monday when they beat Tampa, the Leafs followed it up with three games that you wouldn't even want to sneeze into. And tonight, they follow up that performance. They have a couple days off. They have a couple practices. A trade happens. And instead of falling back into their old ways, they continue that momentum. It took them, 18 minutes to wake up today. But they looked eerily similar to the game that happened on Monday against the Jets. So it's nice to see that kind of roll over in terms of effort, in terms of energy. Like, it was a very good win, save for that empty netter with whatever it is, 2 minutes to go. 3:28 to go. It very easily could have been a shutout for Joseph Woll tonight. I almost tweeted it out. I didn't. I remembered not to. But, the Leafs, for the fact that, they only take three penalties tonight, which again is an improvement. One of the reasons that the Leafs almost fell to the Jets on Monday is because they took 5 power plays again. This might be the fewest amount of penalties that the Leafs have taken, like, in a couple weeks here. I'm just looking at my notes. Thank goodness I have a notebook. Yeah, like, they've consistently taken, 5 or 6 penalties in basically every single game this year. So, again, another good thing to talk about. The PK. The penalty kill for all of its warts on Monday has looked very good. It's still averaging around 80 some odd %, which is a very nice thing to see. The Leafs actually went into the game tonight against the Kraken with almost identical statistics. The Kraken have a 5-4-1, as do the Leafs. I believe their goal percentage is a little bit off, but it's like a 3 and a 3.5. Their goals against average is a little bit wonky as well, because the Leafs have had a couple stinkers. Not that the Kraken haven't, but the Leafs have had more. In terms of like the amount of power plays that they've taken, in terms of hits, they lined up, and they're very strange mirror images of each other so far this year. So going into tonight, like I said, they were riding high off of that win against Montreal the other night, and I can't say I would blame them. Beating Montreal feels pretty good, and so I was expecting a chippier game than it was tonight. There were a couple of good hits, but the game itself was pretty clean. There was no like nastiness. There was no like after the whistle stuff. There was not even like a hint of like a collar grab and shake. There was none of that. So it's a pretty clean game from the Leafs. Like I said, only taking 3 penalties. That's another little baby step forward. If we could get it down to 2, that would be good. But 1 per period, it's hard to complain against that. And then at the end of the third period, Austin Matthews does get a fourth goal for the Leafs to put them up 4-1 over the Kraken, despite the fact that none of those come on the power play. Pretty happy about tonight, kids. Pretty happy. Not much to complain about at all. The power play still stinks. Whatever, we're still winning games. We're now 6-4-1. Again, could be worse, could be better. But that's, they've strung together a nice couple wins. I'm feeling pretty good on that going into my vacation. So, we are going to go into the third period here in just a sec. After the third period, we are going to have overtime, which is this little button right here. Make sure you get your questions in. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have anything you want me to talk about, if you have any really great tweets, you can send them over to me. But we are going to get into our third period. So before we do that, let's talk a little bit about LaRouche. Now, Game Over is an independent production focused on community inclusion and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. We're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise about $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people and get you more resources and to make this show even better and have our reach go even further so that more people can come and join and be with us here on this wonderful network that we love so much. If you have any ideas of what you would like to see as giveaways for these crowdfunding efforts, please let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or on our Discord server. All of those links are down in the description below. So please go check those out. The Game Over Patreon is actually pretty cool. There's a bunch of different tiers. If you want to spend $2, you can do that. If you want to spend $50, you can do that. And that all gets you all kinds of stuff. There's brand new merch that we're going to talk about just before we go into overtime. I got some of that merch, actually, and I was going to wear it. I can tell you it's very nice and it's very comfortable. But before we do that, let's go into our third period. So, yesterday evening, we get the trade announcement regarding Timothy Liljegren, who is no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Chris Johnson's tweet right here, and we are going to talk a little bit about what is happening. So, like I said yesterday around dinner time, 6:46, it was announced that the San Jose Sharks have traded for Timothy Liljegren in exchange for a 2025 third rounder, a 2026 sixth rounder, and Matt Benning, who is another right shot-handed defenseman. A little bit older, a little bit more experience. I think he's got something like 400 some odd games in the NHL. However, he is not going to be readily available. He did have hip surgery last year, so still on the mend from that. I do not think he's starting on injured reserve, but the Leafs, were able to shed basically like $1.5 million on that and get a couple picks. Back on Tuesday night, the Detroit Red Wings traded Olli Maatta over to the Utah Hockey Club for a third, and that instantly sparked more conversations about what Timothy Liljegren could possibly get if he was to be on the trade market. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit surprised that we got the haul that we did for Timothy Liljegren, considering the fact that he has had a rough start. He's only played one game so far this season. He's been scratched in basically every single playoff series that the Leafs have had since its inception. So, that's a tough sell. But all things considered, I couldn't have asked for a better trade. I would be willing to bet that if you put that trade into like NHL 24, for example, I'm willing to bet that the owner comes back and says, I'm going to need a little more for what you're asking. Now, I'm a little bit sad, obviously, that we lost Timothy Liljegren. He's been in the Leaf system since he was drafted in 2017 in various levels. He did win the Calder Cup with them while he was still in the minors there. He was a big part of that team, and he was part of the wave that included players like Travis Dermott, like Rasmus Sandin, like a few other players that we have brought into our system and that have gone on and are now playing in other markets, sometimes many other markets. And he was kind of one of the last wisps of that kind of evaporating into the distance. Now, having said that, I do think that he is going to get a better opportunity in San Jose than he has had here in Toronto. The fact of the matter is while he has been on this team and in the system for a long time, he has had a hard time sort of carving out a permanent spot for himself in the lineup. There have been flashes in the pan of greatness. He has really good moments. He has a very nice first pass. But, there are things that... Excuse me. Sorry, there's a cat attacking my hockey jersey. It's a little bit impressive that the Leafs were able to get what they did for that trade for Timothy Liljegren. And if other trades come, then I would expect that. I would be impressed if they got another haul of that size. But all things considered, I like I said, I couldn't be happier. I don't think there were a lot of other trade partners for Timothy Liljegren. The fact of the matter is, it is still October. And while I like to joke that anybody can win in October, it's hard to win a trade. when you're talking about a defenseman that has played 1 game out of 10, that has had issue keeping a permanent spot for themselves in the lineup. It's too bad that what I am positive he's going to develop into a very good defenseman on a team where he's going to be getting, 17, 18, 19 minutes a night consistently. I have no doubt that he's going to continue to develop and probably iron out some of those wrinkles in his game. And I wish that he would have done it here. But that's hockey. That's the business side of it. And it's not the trade that I'm most upset about. There have been lots of trades that have happened over the years that you end up being super bummed about. And this isn't one of them. It's a shame that it didn't work out. I'm positive that he's going to go on and end up haunting the Leafs again in the future. I can guarantee you that the first game that the Leafs play against the Sharks, he'll probably get at least a point. If you want some easy money, I was right about the Jets game. You can bet money on Liljegren getting at least 1 point against the Leafs whenever they do play the San Jose Sharks next. But please, since we do have the chat, I would love it if you could actually tell me what you think about the Timothy Liljegren, what you think, what else we could have gotten from. What would you have liked back? Maybe a player that you're more familiar with, because I'm not going to lie, up until yesterday, I was not entirely positive I knew who Benning was. So let's keep talking about the Liljegren thing for another couple minutes, just so that we can get you and your questions into the chat. But if there are new people here, my name is Lauren. Welcome to Game Over. Happy to have you. The Timothy Liljegren situation is... it was in the tea leaves, right? It was. It was very evident that at the end of last season, the playoffs, he can barely get himself in properly. He really struggled, and I think this new coach, I think that he was optimistic that he would maybe thrive and take a next step, but I also think that the writing was probably on the wall from the time that that Berube came into the room, that it might not work as well as they would have hoped. And that next step that we all wish that he had taken, whether it be the physical side of it or just being a little bit more sound defensively, we're all a little bit bummed about the fact that it didn't happen a little bit better. But again, it's kind of just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? Like, it's too bad that it didn't happen, and I wish that it had. And like I said, I know that hammer the over on him getting at least a shot on goal next game against the Leafs and getting a point at the very minimum, because that Sharks team doesn't have a lot of offense. I think they've won a couple games in a row now, which congratulations. But it's tough. It's a tough league, and I mean, who knows what Jani Hakanpää's deal is. Right? I imagine that part of the reason for getting him out when we did is the fact that it seems now like Jani Hakanpää's return is imminent. It could be within the week. I think as of after tonight's game, he is eligible to return. Now, it's fair to assume that when he does become active, there is a good chance that he's going to have at least a couple game conditioning stint down with the Marlies. I know that he's been practicing in a regular uniform, basically for the last couple of weeks. I know that he went on that last road trip with the team, and I imagine that he is going to be taking a step back towards his return, but, we also don't know the longevity of that, right? It's one thing to participate in a full 45-minute practice, and it's a totally separate thing to, play in the NHL against a team that's trying to take your head off at every opportunity, and to do that for a solid two and a half hours. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not overly familiar with Jani Hakanpää's game. So, at this point, I'm sure when he does come back, if he's playing well, that I will be pleasantly surprised, because I don't know to expect any different. This is at least a change. We knew what to expect with Timothy Liljegren. We don't know what to expect with Jani Hakanpää. So, I'm hoping that... I'm wishing Timothy Liljegren the very best. I'm sad William Nylander lost another one of his best Swedish buddies. But that's the way that it is, and I look forward to seeing him crush our hopes and dreams again in the future. So Really quickly, before we move on to the overtime period, I am really quickly going to talk to you about the merch that I was speaking about just momentarily ago. So, the Game Over merch. What a better way to support something you love than by rocking its clothing, right? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs, whether it be the nostalgic pull of our retro skater designs. I just realized I'm missing this. And the skater design, whether you want to make a statement with the established design, which is currently on sale, or you just want to wear what you love for goalies and proudly live out or live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. All of this was designed by Brady Chalice of Game Over Winnipeg. Please use the QR code on the stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild the local sports media in Canada while repping your community. I bought this shirt, this one right here. It came in the mail actually today. It is very comfortable. When I took it out of the package, I was like, oh, it looks kind of small. I tried it on and it actually fits me. It fits a treat. So I'm probably going to be wearing that on my next stream. I also got the skater hoodie as well with the Game Over Toronto logo on the front, and it's really nice. I meant to get this all loaded up here, but I forgot. So you just have to look at the back of the shirt that we have. I actually really love this shirt. The concept of it is great. The Game Over Toronto logo with like the robot head in the Game Over Toronto lines is, I love it. It's beautiful. It's a very comfortable clothing line. So please go check it out. I hope. Like, let me give you a word of warning, though. If you are somebody that will wear this, and I am out in public and I see you wearing it, I hope you know that I am coming up to you, and I am going to say, hey, you're wearing our merch. And if you don't recognize me, I will simply never recover. So, let's get back over to the mainstream, and let's talk about overtime. So, at the beginning of this stream, I was talking about Joseph Woll getting a retribution win. The last game against St. Louis was a heck of a stinker by the team. They did not give him an opportunity to win, and he was not able to keep their heads above water in that one. But tonight, I think we can all probably agree that Joseph Woll is the difference maker in this one. That first period, there were a couple shifts that the Kraken were able to string together that were just lethal. Like, they were just... Man, I can't believe that they didn't score on some of those opportunities. There was a string of them back like in a row where they hemmed the Leafs in for well over a minute at a time, and it was like shot on goal, recover, almost clear. Shot on goal, recover, almost clear. And they were able to keep pressure on the wound and stop the bleeding and come out at the end of the first period with the lead. So. Like I said at the beginning, they did wake up a little bit late for the game, but they came into it before the end of the first period, and the whole rest of that game was great, and Joseph Woll was a huge part of it. I imagine that his confidence feels pretty good right now. I mean, going into last week, we were all anticipating him coming back. We were all anticipating him really fighting for the crease. Last Thursday was not a good showing for him. Tonight was the Joseph Woll that we know and love and we're hoping was going to show up at the beginning of training camp this year. The Joseph Woll that, that Flo Jurgensen Flo Buds has been able to make merchandise over, the Brick Wall t-shirt that I also own. He looked as good tonight as I've seen him in months. And I can say that with the true face because he hasn't played this summer. He looks as good tonight as he did in the preseason before he got hurt. He looked very good tonight. So that was very good to see, and I'm sure that him and the whole team are going to feel great about that. I would not be surprised to see if Joseph Woll got the belt tonight. So that is who my money is on for that. Let's really quickly check the chat. Go Leafs go. Yes, Zachary, let's go, buddy. I hope you're having a good night, my friend. Luke, woo! What a dub. Yes, absolutely. Matt Wilkins, that 6-on-5 goal by Seattle shows Jessica Campbell is not just a showpiece hire for the Kraken. Very well executed, yes. Jessica Campbell, first female assistant coach behind the bench on an NHL team. What an opportunity for her. What an opportunity for her as a woman. But what her body parts are don't matter. It's not about what you have. It's about what you can bring to the team. And last year the Kraken missed the playoffs, and this year, while they have had a couple of defensive lapses, Her ability to mentor and make decisions and assist helping the team get over. I couldn't have said any better, Matt. That's perfect. You can, it's little plays like that. She's drawing up the play and they're able to bury it. There was a couple really good opportunities that, again, Seattle could have buried. They pulled the goalie with Joey Decord with 5 minutes to go, man. Like, it was very in the cards that if they pulled off another play like that and the Leafs weren't able to bury it, that, the game could have gotten out of hand, and they could have gotten close to losing it the way they did with Winnipeg. But they were able to stifle. They were able to get the empty net. And yeah, it was really good to see. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually forgot all about that. So congratulations to Jessica on being the first coach. Hopefully the first and not the last. I really look forward to seeing who the first female head coach of an NHL team will be. And I'm sure that there will be a bunch of couch eaters that will not like that. And I hope that when she wins a cup one day, whenever that happens, I hope you have to sit in front of them while they eat out of it. Going on to some more questions. For me, I'm just glad the cap space comes deadline time. Yes, that is a very good point. Nick Robertson still being floated around in trade rumors. He was fine tonight. He was on the fourth line. He did draw a penalty, which was very nice. He was fine. I wonder if one of those picks ends up in a trade bargain around February, so we'll see. Luke Venables, my guy, welcome back, Luke. Before every game, I imagine the opponent's coach circles one Toronto name in red because they need extra attention. Whose name is getting circled next game? Ooh. The coach circles one Toronto name in red. Oh, that's a really good question. Sorry, the phrasing of it was a bit funky for me for a second there. Ooh. I don't think it's a name. I think it's that whole second line, man. That second line. Since they have put those three fellas together, and with Riley, when they're on the ice with Riley, oh man, that line looks as good as a second line that we've had in terms of consistency. It's been a short sample size, right? It's only been 2 games. So let's not put the cart in front of the horse here, but that second line is night and day compared to what we've had the last couple seasons, where it was like Tavares with Willie and some guy, right? Tavares with some guy and Mitch. No, man, this second line now, Patches, Tavares, and Nylander, the TNP line, as I saw someone call it on Twitter instead of TNT, that line looks just brick solid. You circle that whole line. That whole line is, they've been able to capitalize on so many really good opportunities in and around the net that I imagine specifically for the next team's defense, that's what they're circling. It's not it's not one guy. It's that whole second line. They're going to cause nightmares for other teams. And if we can get the top line going, even though I know Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes are they're still scoring points, but not at the rate that we have seen in years previous, not in the way that we know that they can produce. If they are able to get those lines clicking, then that's great. The third and fourth line are now starting to be like the scraggly bits on the team again, which I guess is the way that it's supposed to be, right? Your fourth line shouldn't be your best line. But the bottom 2 lines are I think still very much in the blender. Those top 2 lines, you write that on the whiteboard in permanent marker. You don't write in semi-erasable marker with that. No, that's going in big fat Sharpie letters on the whiteboard. The bottom 6 figure out. You got Connor Dewar coming back. You have, Calle Yarncrook coming back. Holmberg hasn't been playing great. Nick Robertson hasn't been playing great. Alex Steeves is I think a point a game player in the Marlies right now. Fraser Minton is coming back. He's on a conditioning stint with the Marlies right now. That bottom 6, the reality is that bottom 6 is about to get a lot more busy in terms of opportunity, in terms of competition. And if a line comes together and has magic the way that the second line has, then there's going to be 7 players fighting for a bottom 3, which is a good position to be. The Leafs haven't, it hasn't been super consistent on the bottom lines the last couple of years. The longest term staple on that has been David Kampf, and he brings a specific thing to the team that no other player really does in terms of like a defensive shutdown forward. If you can get those bottom two lines figured out, you become a problem for another team. I do still think that if things get stale and Matthews isn't able to get going the way that we know he can, you could swap Marner and Domi, but not right now with the way that Domi's been playing. He's been taking too many penalties. Mitch Marner, for all his choices to not shoot at an open net, which almost happened again tonight, he's leading the team in points, so I'm not going to complain. He's got 1 goal and I think 10 points and 10 assists so far. So he's a point-a-game player right now, which is great. That's what we expect him to be. And so I think that if they can hammer out that bottom 6, that we are going to be a problem. Seems like we're pretty settled in the net now. Stolarz has been so much better than we hoped for. Joseph Wall now being back. Tonight he looked as good as we've seen him in a long time. I think at this point it doesn't really matter who the third goalie is. That second line is going to start haunting people's nightmares for sure. Great question, Luke, as always. More and more, it's probably nice. Yeah. It seems almost disrespectful that Max Pacioretty was this year on a PTO. Yeah, I mean, I think as far as I know, I think there were other teams that offered him opportunity, but let's be real here. It's not a secret that the Leafs have arguably the best medical staff and situation in the league, right? Like, if it's not the top, it's in top 2, for sure. They have Dr. Haley Wickenheiser, a gold medal, a multi-time gold medal hockey winner in the Olympics, who's also an emergency room doctor, in case you were not aware. It just happens to be one of their assistant coaches. So there's no shortage of greatness in terms of staff on this team, and I can't blame someone with a long injury history wanting to come to a place where he knows that his health is going to be a priority number 1. And I imagine that was kind of the thought behind the Benning trade as well. I imagine that. I don't think he had a say in it, but as far as I've heard, the San Jose Sharks are a top-rate organization in terms of their ownership caring about their players. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, but I mean, I'm sure, the player coming into it and finding out that we have such a great medical team, softens the blow about being traded. But I mean, you're being traded from the Sharks to the Leafs, so that's an upgrade no matter how you're feeling. Shots fired. Sabres medical team. Sabres medical team is fine, but that, they're not Toronto. They don't have Haley Wickenheiser. When they have Haley Wickenheiser, they can come and talk to me. Yeah. So, if you don't have any more questions, I'm doing very well with time tonight. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that. You even got to see the cat. His name is Potato, by the way. Potato Jonathan. Potato Jonathan was named after John Tavares because the day that we brought Mr. Potato home was the day that John Tavares scored in Game 6 and put the Leafs into the second round where they then got crushed. But that is why his middle name is Potato. I'm actually glad, his middle name is Jonathan. If you don't have any more questions, I'm going to hop off for the night. I am going to be on vacation for the next several days, so the boys will be back, I believe, on Saturday to take care of the next game. And so make sure you go check out the shows that we talked about. Make sure you go and hit like, hit subscribe. Tell your buddies. I'm not going to steal your line. Tell your buddies to come over and watch the stream. Like, if you're talking shop with someone at work and they talk about them being a Leafs fan, or maybe they're a fan of another team in Canada, like, direct them over to us because, let people make their own decisions, but we got a heck of a team over here in every single market. And even though Toronto is one of the bigger ones, we can always use more fans and more people watching our streams and listening to us if you're listening. So if you've been here, from the beginning, or if it's your very first time, thank you for being here. You can find me on Twitter at Lauren in the 6. Like I said, please go hit like, hit subscribe, go check out our Patreon, go check out our Discord if you're interested. And make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Make sure you go check out Hyperdrive Hockey as well. They will take care of all of your hockey needs. So for this the conclusion of the month of October for 2024. My name is Lauren. I have loved having you here on Game Over Toronto. And we will see you again on Saturday. Go Leafs go. Leafs win 4-1 over the Seattle Kraken on a Diwali Halloween wonderful episode. Thank you for being here and have yourself a wonderful night.